Okay, hey everybody. This is Carter. Coming back with just kind of a little trading video, real quick. So this is really talking about the strategy using Polarity ATI. So it'll be kind of flipping back and forth here. So really, it's a supply and demand based strategy mixed with um, a little bit of using Polarity ATI. So what I need to look for originally, so going over to the trading view chart, I'm using a 15 range. I want to look for candles that are basing like this with very strong movement up and vice versa with very strong movement back. And my idea is that there is leftover buy orders there, leftover sell orders, whatever, vice versa. That what I want to do when I get to my quote unquote area of interest, I will, for example, on a when price is moving up into an area of supply, I would want to be arming regression long to get short, and vice versa. How you determine if a zone is valid, in my opinion, I don't want a zone to be used over and over again. But what I really want to look for is that once I find a zone on the 15 range, I want to go down to the 4 range. The reason why I want to go down to the 4 range is that I want to see some sort of quick / explosive move to the upside. So, for example, when we're looking here, sorry, I got to go back. When we're looking, for example, here, if we go back to the 4 range chart, we can see that there's some sort of a gap in price. Again, price moved very, very quickly in one direction here. There's just straight candles in a row. There wasn't chop. There is a trade earlier today that I probably could have taken. It's more so right around here. So if let's just mark this up real quick. Again, you're going to reduce your trades by a lot by not taking as many trades, but I find this to be higher probability. So if we go down to the 4 range here, I didn't personally really liked it. Like maybe you could make a case that it blew out right here, but it was just very, very choppy in here. You see, once price entered in here, it was choppy back and forth. You probably would have got entered. Again, I use a 3-to-3 risk to reward ratio, and I also actually have a runner. So that's why I trade micros on it, where I'll target X amount of, I'll target, on 85% of my contracts, 3 points, and then I'll have the rest move to that break even. So basically what I do is that the way that I find my zone is that I find the value area on the candle. Again, I want to look for price that's going straight up. I don't really care about these 1, 2, 3. I want to look for at least 15 points in one direction without a pullback, showcasing that some sellers are there. What I do then is that I find, again, like I'll just delete the zone. You'll see that this price went straight up. Again, I kind of met my specification on the 4 range on a lower time frame. And then I will draw in between here. So if price is in here, for example, I'll be arming regression short and arming when price enters here. If price bounces out of it a little bit, it's kind of quick back and forth, like arming back and forth. But hopefully the idea would be that maybe you get a quick flick down in price and then you catch a bunch of, passive active sellers and you catch a lot of the passive buyers below. If price touches into the zone and then bounces out of it, that's up to you if you want to keep arming or not, but I usually delete the zone and be like, well, orders were filled. So it's honestly a pretty simple strategy. It's just that you just got to be very, very patient and kind of look for proper criteria. So one thing, for example, one that I didn't take today, again, was, this zone right here. I was like, oh, just like, it did end up rejecting. Don't get me wrong. But again, it didn't get up into the area that I wanted. So if we go to like 212 real quick, sorry, I'm slipping back and forth. If we go back to the spot, it was very, very choppy when it moved down. Although price got up into here, it's very, very choppy. You could argue that there was some sort of a leftover sellers here, something along the lines of that. So you kind of have to, in my opinion, have some sort of, not really a market bias, but be willing to. One sec. Sorry, I'm doing a fantasy football draft at the same time. Okay. Be willing to not take trades. Again, I think there was a trade that I missed this morning. Again, like here, for example, if you look farther left on the day, yeah, it was like right around here. If we looked all the way back to where this chart was, again, it looks choppier on this area. Once you start, if you go onto NinjaTrader and use the 4 range, there's not as much data loads on this, but you'll actually be able to see there's a lot more sellers on it. So one that I'm specifically watching here is this zone right here. This would be a prime zone right here. See that exactly, just a strong move up, and actually even lower here. Can't really see it right here, but there's just a strong candle move up. So it's showcasing to me that there's probably some passive buyers or sellers that have some liquidity left over. So again, it's not super hard. Again, I'm in an APAT or a take profit trader. This was after 1 week. I took one trade today, had a loss unfortunately, but I was up about $2,600 in the first week. So I'm pretty slow and steady, and I trade on the micros just so I can scale a little bit differently. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Again, it's not super hard or super. There's probably more trades that people could take. For example, I wanted to take a trade like you can take manual trades. Price came back down to here. You can take multiple manual trades throughout it as well too. So totally up to you and your style. Again, one thing that I also do too is I also use a 60 range, which is a higher time frame. And again, I kind of look for larger areas. Maybe I wouldn't be, if we got up into here and somehow we built support, maybe I wouldn't be taking longs up into here. Maybe I'd be fine to arm regression. So this is even adding more confluence that this is, another basing zone with a huge drop down that's showcasing that, there's some active or some passive sellers there in some manner. Here again, for the 60 range, I look for at least like 3 candles strong in one direction. We have 3 strong candles. The price comes down here. I think that there's probably a pretty higher chance that, again, we don't really care about if the huge move. It's like if we get a bounce considerably kind of like this right here, if we get some short-term bounce. So, and hopefully this helps you guys out a little bit. Again, it's all about patience and just, I'm waiting for some zones to be tested. Of course, I got some marked up higher and down lower, but again, it's just a waiting game. And this could possibly be one here, but again, I just don't really like, how choppy it looks, at least on the 4 range here. If we go down to the 4 range, you could argue there's some demand here, but when I'm trying to long that lowest candle, it just looks very, very choppy in between here. I'm more so trying to look for, zones that have these straight out shots, and I've only been used. I only like to use zones that been used once or are freshly about to be used, because it just, again, multiple tests makes it a weaker zone. Hopefully this helps you guys. See you in the chat. Good luck to everybody trading.